Hi, guys. Thank you for joining. This is Essence of Science, and today we're talking about birds. I'm Amanda Armagost.
And I'm Dr. Abbasi for Essence Birds. Amanda, you have some experience with birds, don't you?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I do have some experience with birds, but the reason I chose the topic of birds is because I'm kind of in a little reading niche right now. My topic that I really like to read about, or like my books I really go for lately, are memoirs that are written by bird watchers. It's very niche, but it's really interesting because you can learn a lot about the world and about the way people interact with each other. So right now I'm actually reading a book called The Gift of Crows, and it's not a memoir, it is a science book, so it's just like bird fact after bird fact after bird fact. And I'm learning a little bit right now about the way birds form language, and it's all about like the crow family. So not just crows, but like ravens and
Mhm.
magpies and things like that. But and we learn about the way birds not just mimic humans, but try and mirror humans. So they're not mimicking us, they're trying to communicate with us because they know that there's a benefit that they'll get from that. So, yeah.
Some birds, yeah.
Yep, some birds, the birds that we've taken the time to study. So I'm not going to ever disclude any birds because I don't think that we've given them the proper amount of attention.
Yeah. Well, generally, when we think of birds, we think of flying.
Yeah.
But and because most of them fly, not all of them, but most of them fly. But that's not what makes birds birds. So, yeah, what really makes birds birds? What do you think? It's the essence of science. So let's talk about a little scientifically about birds.
Well, I would say the makeup of a bird, a beak, and their
Yeah.
specific bone structure.
Though there are some rare birds, rarely birds have teeth, but yeah, beak is the very characteristic thing for birds. Yes.
Beak, there are types of bones. Birds have different bones than
Yes, they
humans.
have hollow bones. All flying birds have hollow bones, which is strong, but is lighter, much lighter than other. But non-flying birds have heavier bones, as it makes sense. They don't have to fly.
And then the type of feet that they have usually three with one in the back, right? Three toes with
Yes,
one toe in the
yes, yes.
back.
Yes, but there are other animals that have three toes and so on. So that as well is not necessarily specifically to birds. But what's specifically to birds is that number one, they lay eggs and they
Yeah,
are
but so do
warm.
platypus.
Well, but platypus is something between a lot of
And
things.
so do snakes and reptiles.
Well, but what makes the birds, what all birds have in common is they lay eggs and they are warm-blooded and they have at what level or another coverage that is made of what we call feather. Sometimes even penguins, the feather is so fine that it's almost, unrecognizable. But these are the three major things, and what differentiate them from reptiles is that they are not cold-blooded like reptile.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think what we need to understand is that reptiles existed a long, 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 long before birds existed. And eventually they separated. There were two groups. One, what we call these days dinosaurs, and then obviously reptile, the predator shifted in two groups, actually in three groups. Small mammal, what we would call today mammals, then reptiles and dinosaurs. And eventually, these dinosaurs, they really exploded. There were lots of variation of them. And everybody knows about that asteroid that changed the entire planet and changed the entire, ecology on Earth. And it seems that we say dinosaur died out, but that's not true. The dinosaurs are living in birds.
Yeah,
Birds.
because now they're saying like I think they found some parts of a dinosaur that were in amber, like in resin, and it
Mhm.
had the feathers preserved.
Well, it is one of the problem with the feathers or soft tissue. They are usually not preserved. So every time you see T-Rex or some other dinosaur, we only have the bones preserved as a fossil, and just artistically we make up the rest. Like there is actually a very interesting um, actually meme. You can find it on YouTube or TikTok or somewhere else. If we would just find bones of different animals that exist today, and we would give it to the same scientists that they have told us how dinosaur look like, and they would artistically create those animals. They don't look nothing like actual animal. Like bear look like
Hmm.
something else, or dog even look
Like
like
A French bulldog.
they that all are artistic rendering of the current dinosaurs, and obviously feathers won't show up in the usually in the dinosaur fossils. So, and as
Yeah,
well,
but we do understand now that they probably did have feathers because we found preserved feathers in resin, in
most
amber.
likely, most likely feather was something that developed in dinosaurs and got forwarded in birds. And as well, we know that they were um, flying dinosaurs. We know that as of now that they were flying dinosaurs, and everybody knows about those big flying. As a matter of fact, biggest flying animals in the world were some dinosaurs. But we are not really sure where current bird separated from dinosaurs. And I think like everybody has heard of this glider. What do you call this little animal
Sugar
that glides?
glider.
But it's called sugar glider, right?
Mhm.
Now, eventually, flying in start of the flying developed in different part of animal kingdom because of the necessity, and it start with just possibility that one small animal just goes from one tree to another. They glide from one tree to another. So like sugar gliders and so on. And that's what we understand, that probably is not the big dinosaurs that we think of, but some of the smaller one developed this ability to glide, and then they got better and better and better until they could truly fly. And and I think that is the reason that the this is what I believe. I'm not sure if there's a proof of that or not. I believe that's the reason that the birds survived, because they were from the smaller one. We know that when the situation changed, ecology and the earth atmosphere and so on change, that is more dangerous to big animals than to small animals.
Yeah.
Now there is much more, many of them in number, and they're more adaptable. They can possibly come survive with less food and so on and so forth. So when we say birds are dinosaurs, it's not in the sense of the kind of dinosaur we know, like T-Rex or some of the other bigger one. So, and what that's one of the things people don't know, that dinosaur came in all size and shapes. They weren't only the big one. There were lots of small ones.
Hmm.
Now, but what I need people to understand is that for the timeline is that, did you know when at the time we have dinosaurs, we had crocodiles?
And cockroaches, and the cockroaches survived that big asteroid.
And as well, it's sharks. Can you imagine? There are few animals on the earth that they are so successful that they didn't really need to change much. Cockroaches, no, the sharks.
Yeah, so birds. Let's talk about
Well,
them.
well, birds survived because number one, it was there were smaller um, dinosaurs, and secondly, they could move. They could have a bigger territory for their food, and they compare in comparison to some bigger dinosaurs, they didn't need that much food.
Well, and they can cross longer distances because, for example, like if it's a very mountainous area or a lot of rivers, they don't have all these obstacles to go over. So I think that that's another huge factor is because when the asteroid hit, it didn't everything all at once turn black. It was slow and gradual. So I think that they were able to migrate a little bit better.
And get out of danger, get out of
Exactly.
places that there weren't enough food and so on. That's probably all contribute. No, but let's talk about the birds now. You know, obviously, there is almost no continent, no place that there are no birds.
Right.
Birds are everywhere. Makes sense because they can fly.
And because the continents that otherwise wouldn't have birds because of natural storms. Because when there's a big storm, the birds get usually get brushed in the storm and go to other continents. I think that I read that the theory that that's how bats ended up on Hawaii.
Yeah, yeah. And well, obviously, everybody knows that the bats are not really birds, but yes, generally anything that flies can be spread out much faster. Now, but you had multiple birds. Let's talk about your birds.
So I've had two types of birds. I've had chickens, so I really love having chickens. I was actually just talking to Cassandra about how I miss them, and I don't know, I kind of
With the egg price, you should be missing them.
I know, and I have this set up. So anyway, but then chickens, I really enjoyed having. I totally recommend having chickens. And then I also had quail.
Mhm. Now, what did you observe about let's say about the chicken, what were your observation about them?
Thanks for asking because I do really observe animals a lot and I think about it a lot while I'm observing them. I observed that my chickens were very social and they developed a hierarchy. So everyone knows that chickens have hierarchies. But I didn't realize how strong it is and that when one chicken passes away, the rest of the like if it's at the top of the hierarchy, which is pretty common because they're the stronger ones, so they want to fight off whatever's going on. When the top chicken passes away, the rest of the chickens are confused. Like anytime any of my chickens passed away, all of my other chickens would look around, be confused, kind of be like it seemed like asking questions like their squawks were a little bit different and I could tell that there was a huge shift in their
They have
system.
hierarchy, correct. The chicken have definitely hierarchy.
And the
And
chickens are constantly talking to each other all
yeah,
night, all the time. They're making
okay.
little noises. So they're obviously saying something to each other. We don't know, we'll never know
But
what they're saying, but they're communicating. So they're very social creatures.
were they female or all of them?
Yeah.
Okay, and did you notice that the dominant chicken female mounts the others? Have you noticed that?
No, because I was the dominant one. I mounted my chicken.
Did you mount the chicken?
Yeah.
No, tell us what exactly did you do?
Okay. Well, so for the visual people, I would kind of like go up to my chickens like this and like stomp by them and then hover over them and kind of go on then I would squat down and go on top of them and then I would
Oh,
grab by their tail and shake it and
uh-huh.
push them down and just pretty
It's a
much
matter
like
of dominance. It's a show
I would
dominance.
dominate my chickens so then they know that I'm the boss and also that they can trust me to protect them, which
Uh-huh.
they couldn't at the end of the day, but
Now, how did they meet their demise?
I had a lot of chickens, so they all kind of passed away different. Like I had a silky, I think she passed away from an electrolyte issue. She just passed.
Yeah.
And then dogs, like my neighborhood dog, but then the biggest predator was the raccoons.
Yeah. Raccoons. Now, you may know that there are like uh, probably 5 times more chicken on the planet than there are people,
Yeah,
and they have a short lifetime. They produce a lots of meat fast, at least the way we have raised them.
depending on the chicken.
Yeah, and specifically, we raise chicken because number one, they cannot fly. Actually, that's the reason. One of the reasons they cannot fly away.
But they can jump your fence.
They can, but more importantly, they cannot fly away because they are heavy.
Hmm.
They literally have too much meat, and that's what we want, right? They have hierarchy. They give us eggs. They are probably one of the most economic kind of a food source that we have. And the idea is that I read someplace that to get a 1 kilogram of beef, we have to feed them like 7 to 10 kilograms. So the ratio is 10 to 1 for beef, but for chicken is like 2 to 1. So it's much more economical having chicken.
And
And
chickens will eat anything. Where
yeah,
cows
and that's
cows
it.
are
That's it.
vegetarian.
And that's it. That's another thing that chicken are like human, like omnivore. You told me about episode when your chicken was actually hunting a mouse, right?
Yeah, I've seen my chicken. Oh, yeah, I've seen my chicken swallow a baby mouse whole, but then also one time another bird went into my chicken coop
Oh,
and my chickens killed it.
oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
What kind of bird was it?
Just like a backyard bird, like a small backyard bird. It went into the chicken coop and I went outside and I saw the dead bird there. They didn't eat it, but they killed it. So, and it was kind of in their nesting area where they laid their eggs. So obviously, I think they're just being protective.
And there are little dinosaurs if you want. So they're like vicious. No.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting how chickens have like women have a monthly cycle, but chickens have a daily cycle. And different birds have different cycles, obviously, just like different mammals have different cycles, but that's why you receive one egg a day on average from your chickens.
Mhm.
But it's interesting because you don't actually receive one egg a day, just like women's cycle isn't 30 days, it's 28 days. A chicken cycle isn't actually 24 hours. It's, I think, 26 hours. So you receive one egg a day, but then sometimes you don't get an egg
Mhm.
in a day.
Now, another thing is I think what everybody knows about the chicken is that obviously they lay egg um, um, um but independent if you have a rooster or not, they lay
Mhm.
eggs.
Yeah.
But that is most likely because we sort of propagated, we chose those that lay egg. We see, like anything in nature, it comes in many different variation, and we chose those. So it's not in nature that would be truly wasteful to lay eggs every day. That is just not what nature does. That is us. That is we steered it in that direction. But another thing is that how brutal sometimes they can be. I mean, there's a name, they call it cockfight.
Yeah.
Because when the group of what you just described cannot even survive two roosters. They literally fight to death.
Well, and not only that, but chickens are predators at the end of the day.
They are.
So that's why I had a hard time when I had quail and chickens. I had to keep them separated because if I allowed the quail near the chickens would eat the quail.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and another thing is that they are not considered very smart, but there are some very smart, very, very smart birds. You were mentioning crows.
Crows
Crows
and
are,
ravens.
yeah, crows or ravens and or parrots and some other animals, some other birds are considered extremely smart, and we are measuring that they are not imitating human voice or language, but actually they are able to learn it, truly
Hmm.
learn it. As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, considering the size of their brain to size of our brain, gram by gram, ounce by ounce, I think bird's brain is even smarter than human brain. Now imagine like a small little parrot is learning full languages and so on.
Well, I mean, think about this. These tiny birds are migrating from Minnesota all the way to South America. So they're flying. They know where they're going. They don't have a map. It's all in
Mhm,
their head and they have but to understand their migration path, you really have to understand the bird. Think about what they have to do to their bodies before they fly for months. They
mhm.
have to really eat the right diet. They have to they have to communicate with each other safe places that they can stop, small islands that they can stop on their migration path. They're so much smarter than we give them in like credit for. Birds can sleep while they're flying. So they
Mm.
can fly with one eye open and sleep while they're flying.
So half of the brain can sleep, and talking about the migratory, which is amazing. And we human have been using it for a long time. And by the so-called the message that we have been sending with pigeons,
Hmm.
or that for a long time, that was the only way, the humans were communicating, raising a bird, a pigeon in one place, and then just covering the bird, bringing the bird to completely some other place, and they still know how to fly back. And we had no idea how they do that until we figured out there is something in their brain that is magnetically, inclined. Like, as you know, the magnetic fields of the earth go from north to south, and they are like, that they are like lines. Those lines, depending on where you are, they have an angle. And these little miraculous animals are able, based on those angle of that, understand where they are, what direction they are, how far is home, and be able to just literally fly home wherever home is for them.
Yeah, but then they also have like destined, like family destined pit stops that they have to take. Like their aunt, their grandma, everyone took the same stop to stop for food and refuel and get some rest on
Yeah,
their migration path. So it's cute that they just have these little, like they know how to get there from the magnetic thing, but then
yeah.
also knowing where to stop.
Yeah, that is they are extremely. Now, there's something we know about this. This by itself is not a sign of intelligence because fish have that, and lots of animals have this migratory. This is in their DNA. But we know about the birds that those birds are very, very what we call specialized, like um, like owl. They're very specialized. They have only one kind of food, and they are extremely good at it. Actually, they are dumber. Those birds that are more generalists, meaning that they encounter different problems. Now it makes sense. They encounter different problems. They eat different things. They are the smartest. Like crows are always underestimated how
Hmm.
smart they are. As a matter of fact, they can even learn language better than parrots.
Yeah, that's what I heard, but I think parrots are just prettier.
That's very true. That's why we don't have crows in
But
our.
we used to.
No,
We used to have pet crows in the 30s.
really?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I should have, a bird, a pet crow.
You might, honestly, you might. That might be a vibe. Like, think about Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
I think his one of his friends had a pet crow, and that's why he wrote his his poem that everyone. I think it's called The Raven. It's because people were really talking bad about all of these dark colored birds, and they had these stigmas around them, and he was like, "No, these birds are beautiful, intelligent creatures."
Now, there are, and they communicate with each other. We know
Mhm.
that they communicate with each other. In one of the colleges, they actually did literally a test. So first, they put a mask on the student, and then they treated birds, these crows, poorly, throw things at them, and so on and so forth. And then they waited until the next generation was there or went somewhere else. I forgot. One of the two went to the birds. Now, obviously, those birds that they're observing, these people with the same mask mistreat them. They always go crazy when they come and so on. They scream and they fly over them and so on and so forth. But then they notice even crows that they never have seen that mask. I think they did it in a controlled environment, but then even crows that they have never seen that mask would behave the same way. That means they must have a way to communicate to other birds, to other crows, that this person with this figure, with this, imagine to have to describe, imagine they have to describe your face to another crow, blonde
Exactly.
hair and this height and so on. We don't have no idea. We have no idea how they do that, but they are able to communicate the characteristic of this person who was mistreating them. Okay, and so that other crows that they never seen this person have as well this aversion against that. So I think that's amazing
Yeah,
actually.
agree. And just to set the record straight, it wasn't that the crows had an aversion to humans. It was just those specific humans that
That
were being
specific,
mean.
yes, exactly.
Because there was this other story that I heard where this lady, she would go to the park and feed the crows every day. And
Mhm.
she talked to the scientists, and the scientists were the ones who were clipping the crows, like putting the tags on them. So because they were studying the crows. And when she would get to the park, the crows would come to her because they knew that she was going to have treats or whatever. And then when the scientists would go to the park, the crows would like attack them and be mean because they knew that those guys were going to catch them and tag
Yeah.
them, but then they knew the lady had treats.
And there's another study that I think is amazing. I think most of human cannot solve it. Imagine, there is a well, there's so much water in it, and you have like, imagine in the well, there is 5 feet or 10 feet below the well, below the surface, there is water. But you just have a rope that goes 5 feet. What do you do?
Well, I know the answer because I've seen that video.
Yeah, yeah, but most of people don't know how to solve that.
Right.
But the crows, what they do, they start like in smaller well, obviously smaller things. If
With the
they cannot
bottle.
reach the water, they start throwing pebbles and stones in that thing, so the water raises, so they can drink it. I think probably most of my children couldn't solve that puzzle.
Right. That shows that they have problem solving tools.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think that they observe humans the way that we observe them because on my book this morning when I was listening to it on my way to work, they were telling stories about some hikers or something had like a fresh baked pie and the crows came and stole the whole tin of pie and then later dropped the tin back. So they ate the pie and gave the and that happened twice. They took the whole thing and gave the container back.
That's how your friend do with you, right? Eat your
No.
soup and give you the container back.
No, but actually that brings me to my goal. One of my goals for my life is actually to make friends with the crows. I tried it last year. It didn't work. I think it was because I had chickens and then the crows were seeing that I was like keeping birds captive. But what I would do is, I mean, it's possible. People do this all the time. People have like crow vending machines, but I would
Yes,
put,
yes. Tell me about crow vending machine. What's that about?
okay, a crow vending machine is crows, like we were just talking about, crows are problem solvers, but they also like items. Like they like shiny things. They like flashy stuff. So, and they like nuts. So in the crow vending machine, pretty much a crow deposits a gift of some type. It can be like a clothespin, a penny, and then they receive a shelled peanut.
Or even like a soda can. That's
Yeah.
actually, I think in some places they are trying to do that to get rid of the trash and so
Yeah,
on.
you're right.
That they bring specially things that are recyclable, and they get a small little peanut for a for a can, which when you imagine, why don't we do it more? Like free cleaning for
I can
just
tell
some
you why.
peanuts.
Because we always discredit animals. We never give the animals the credit they deserve. But if we just give them some respect and some credit, then they can work for us and we can all just live together in a nice way.
Yeah, in a nice way, in a nice way. They steal those, still they steal your pie. Now, another thing is their ability to create tools, like using a stick to get some, worms or other maggots out of crevices and so
Hmm.
on. So that's we have learned as well that they can like literally take a small little stick and use it like a pokey thing, poke and get maggots out of smaller crevices and so on.
Yeah.
And I've seen them doing that as well. And obviously, it seems that they have a mode of communication with each other, but it seems that they can learn human mode of communication, actual language. Obviously, probably they can learn, I think what I've heard somewhere between 300 and 500 words and so on, which
Yeah,
is
I've heard.
amazing. That is more than some people.
Well, and also they can mimic other animals
Mhm.
to warn each other. So I know
Yeah.
crows, like we're kind of on the crow topic because I've been reading a lot about crows, but I
Mhm.
know that crows can sound like a hawk.
Yeah.
They can make hawk noises to warn each other.
Let's talk about the hawks. They are specialists. They are extremely good at what they are doing.
Are they one of the smallest raptors?
Well, they come in all sizes. They come in all different sizes, and but they all have in common they have extremely good eyesight. Like
Eyes
um,
like a hawk.
that's what they say. That's what they say, and and they obviously they're master of flight. They can achieve like speeds that's unimaginable for any other living being. Like when they come on their hunt and so on, and they can coordinate their flights incredibly. They're specialists. They are not problem solvers. They don't have to solve problems. That's the point. If they are good at what they are doing to get food, they don't have to solve problems, and that their intelligence doesn't have to develop. Whereas crows, like they're like kind of like human. We are not specifically good at anything. We are not the fastest runner. We don't have the most of the muscle or speed, or we cannot keep ourselves warm and so on and so forth. We cannot dive. We cannot, like, even a mouse can hold their breath longer than we can and so on. So we are, as a matter of fact, one of the reasons we are smart is because we are so bad at everything else.
Yeah, just
And
clumsy.
that are the crows. They are so bad at everything else, they have to compensate by becoming intelligent, more intelligent to just survive.
It's
So
nature.
yeah, and I think there are different kind of birds that are obviously specialized. Now, I'm sure a few come to your mind. Talked about the crows, we talked about the hawks, and so
Let's
on.
talk about the dumbest bird.
Which one do you think it is? I don't know which one you
Well,
mean.
what comes to my head is an ostrich.
Yeah.
A big, you had I think one time you had an ostrich. Didn't you eat an ostrich egg?
No, I don't believe so. They're really big. They're
Yeah, they're like,
yeah, yeah. They're huge. Uh,
but the ostrich brain is the same size as its eyeballs.
yeah, that's interesting. That
That's how
how,
dumb.
how little brain you need to survive. You
Well,
know,
they're pretty fast runners, aren't they?
the fast runners, they're dangerous. They're strong, and as a matter of fact, I think in many countries they are being held as for human consumption,
Hmm.
both their eggs and their meat. And I think they are the fastest running animals in the, I think for sprint, I think maybe jaguars are faster, but for considering how long they can keep up, they are one of the fastest running animals. So definitely they are very specialized.
Yeah, they better be fast runners because they like, haven't you heard about how they hide?
Put the head in the sand.
Yeah. Is
That is
that
not
fake?
true. No, that's not true.
Oh,
they
good.
they put their head in the sand. Actually, they look for food and so on, and that's how we
Mm,
see them. And obviously when they are looking for food, they don't see us, and we are anthropomorphizing them, meaning that we give them a human like characteristic, and we say, okay, they are so dumb, they just hide their head in the sand, so they think if they don't see us, we don't see them. And so that's not true actually.
good.
Um, but there are some other very, very specialized birds like penguins.
I was just
That
thinking
is,
about penguins.
yeah, but that's a story for itself. I don't believe we can cover penguin because there's so much interesting thing about them. But one of the things that come to my mind is, at least for some penguins, pebbles are very, very valuable, and we have studies the deception in penguins. Literally, sometimes they go and steal uh, pebbles from each other's nest. And if a penguin steal pebbles, all other penguins they shame them and they avoid them and so on. They are known as the pebble thieves. And female penguins, they choose sometimes their mate based on who has the best pebbles.
I thought the mates bring pebbles to like walk a really long ways to bring a pebble to their
Yeah,
female.
sometimes they do. And what I think is very interesting is that not only penguin, but all birds, their range of things they can hear is way beyond us. And you remember the part that I was talking about? We human are not good at anything. We cannot
Mm.
smell. Literally, we are like a rudimentary smell, but as well our hearing and sound is very rudimentary. Now imagine you go to a not only penguin but like seagulls or other birds. They go to a place that there are millions of those birds. They can in this million of sounds find their mate and find their way to them.
That's sweet.
That's not if that's not amazing, I don't know what it is. Imagine you go to a you go to a concert that are even 10,000 people there. Everybody's talking, but just with listening, you find your partner and you go and find them in 10,000. Now make it like in some of those colonies, there are hundreds of thousands
Yeah.
birds. Now imagine you hear that and you can't find your way. So it seems that their little brain and their little ears are unbelievably so much more worse than ours that we cannot even imagine. But on the other side, other animals are as well, so much better. Like dogs are so much better, like 10,000 times better at smelling. So it all come back to that we humans we are so bad at so many things.
I know when I started my yoga course, they wanted me to sign this contract that said that I agree that humans are the most intelligent body on the planet, or something along the lines that the human body is the most intelligent machine on the planet. And I was like, I'm not going to sign that. I don't agree with this one bit. If you know me, you know that
No,
I
well,
I'm
I
not
would say
like that.
our brain is the most
But
intelligent.
it said the human body is the most intelligent
Okay.
machine.
No, well, our body is as a matter of fact, I think our human body is a miserable little thing compared
It
to what's
has
out there.
it has some work it can
Uh,
do. It can be better.
Do you think you can outrun your quails even or your chicken? No
No,
chance. Not
no
even
chance.
not even an Olympic athlete can
You have no
outrun a chicken.
idea. No, you don't know how many hours I've spent chasing those chickens, literally
Yeah.
chasing them around the yard trying to grab them.
No. And what you notice
Actually,
that
sorry, I think that's how Rocky, that fighter, I heard that that's how he trained for his things, as he would chase chickens and try and catch them.
oh, okay. Or imagine jumping a mouse or a cat or a birds. Birds obviously use their flight and so on, but as well how they can coordinate everything and so on.
Well, and
Now,
even lungs. Like I think some birds have up to 14 lungs, or 14 holes in their air pockets in their body that the air goes through. And
mm,
that's why birds can sing such a long sound, because while they're singing out, they can also breathe in.
yeah, they're amazing. And another thing what we know very well is about their their social skills. They're different in every bird, but all of them have these social skills of courting. As a matter of fact, that is, one of the, I think, very impressive how they court. Like, have you noticed in almost all birds, females are boring and the males are colorful.
Yeah.
They are more elaborate. They are more, I mean, you see them, it's just more colors, more thing and so on. Did you ever think about why is that females are boring and males are so much more beautiful?
Yeah, I have thought about that.
So what do you think it is?
Well, the woman has to lay on the eggs and stuff, so she can't really be flashy. She has to be more hidden. Like,
Okay.
she doesn't want the predators to see her,
Okay.
and like
Does the male need to be flashy?
he needs to get the woman.
No, no, but why do
He-
female women care about flashy? Well,
Well,
human as
because
well. Why do
if he survived this long being
exactly?
flashy, he might be smart.
Oh, not only smart, but more, strong and so on,
Yeah,
like ostriches and not ostriches. The Jesus, those things that have long tails. I forgot their name.
peacocks.
Peacocks. Yeah. Imagine with all that appendage that they have to move around, they must be very, very strong. to avoid predators.
Yeah.
If you have really, really strong, then your offspring are going to be strong and so on. So it is about showing that even though everybody can see me, they cannot catch me.
I've actually watched birds at my house doing their little mating dance. It was one bird and three male birds were competing for her. And she was standing on one branch and they kept like taking turns to go on her branch and like and do their thing and
Yeah.
they would take turns. It was so cute. But also I've seen birds watching out for each other
Yeah.
in my backyard.
And hence we call them wingman.
Yeah, wingman, exactly. Yeah, because I it seemed like a competition, but like obviously one of them was the winner. I think the other two were just there to show how much better the other one was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But sometimes when birds are making their nests, I watch them and they do it in pairs a lot of or like these I think they're finches at least what I'm watching in my garden, really like I have some grapevines and they really like the grape branches. But
Yeah,
what happens is one will sit on a branch and keep watch while the other one goes and like brings the branches into the birdhouse.
yeah. And it's as well the ways of building nest and so on is in so many different ways, and it's truly amazing. They're master builders, and it's all about protecting their chicks and so on.
And they even are known to keep their nests clean. Well,
As
I
ma-
think we can go on and on about birds. I think we should do a part two about birds, or maybe even a specific like just crows or just finches or something. Thank you guys for watching. This was Essence of Science, and we talked about birds. I'm Amanda Armagost.
and I'm Dr. Abbasi. We talked very rudimentary about birds.
Service level, just getting you started. Bye, guys.